Istanbul is a city like no other, sitting on the crossroads of two continents, one side in Europe while the other in Asia. It's where the West meets the East. It was built on the banks of the mighty Bosphorus Strait, which serves as a gateway between the Black Sea and the Mediterranean, making this one of the most important stretches of waterways in the world. It's had many names over the centuries, originally known as Byzantium when it was first founded by the Greeks. Later, the Romans made it the capital of their Eastern Empire, changing its name to Constantinople in honour of the Emperor Constantine. And then for over 500 years, it was the seat of power for the sultans who ruled the Ottoman Empire. 1930, it officially changed its name to Istanbul, which was known by the locals in the Turkish language for centuries. It's our first time in this historic city, so there's no better place to start our journey than Sultanahmet Square. We're in the historic part, but there are so many things to see in this city, so many historical monuments, so many places of significance that we've decided to take a guided tour today.
So we're on our way now to meet up with our guide and look at all the history here in Istanbul.
And a bit later on, we're going to take a cruise up the Bosphorus Strait.
Sultanahmet Square is in the historic old city of Istanbul. It was originally the hippodrome of Constantinople, where it hosted chariot races, public gatherings and celebrations, and it was the political centre of the Byzantine Empire. Today, a few remnants of the hippodrome remain. So behind me here is a obelisk, and it was built in about 1450 BCE from the 3rd dynasty of the Egyptian rule of Thutmose, and it was brought over here during the Roman time when Constantine the Great, he took a lot of these things from Egypt just to decorate the city. And you can see how high up they've actually built the hippodrome area. Have a look at this obelisk here. Just how far down, it's about 3 metres. And that's the original base, the old pavement that was here at the hippodrome. We meet up with our guide Yunus at the Blue Mosque, which is one of the most important landmarks in Istanbul, with its unique architecture and 6 minarets.
It is called Sultanahmet, because this mosque was built by the Sultanahmet the year 1609, between 16 and 17. It took like only 8 years to finish this construction, 8 years. But we are so lucky because this building was under restoration last 6 years. They just done like 3 months ago. So we are so lucky about this, to see this beautiful the mosque right here. Even at the 2nd floor, the restorations are still going on.
So we're at the Sultanahmet Mosque, also
Not
Ahmed.
wrong country. We're at the Sultanahmet Mosque, which is also known as the Blue Mosque.
But it's all made inside of quartz, so it gives that blue tinge to it also. That's why the Europeans call it the Blue Mosque.
Yeah, so it's not actually a Turkish name for it, that's the name the Europeans gave to the mosque.
Amazing, the architecture, the detail. Apparently 8 years to build this one. As you saw in Muscat, that one took 20 years. But, you know, that's a modern one, and yeah, this one's over 400 years old. Amazing just the craftsmanship back then in building these things.
Interesting bit of information we got was about the minarets on a mosque, which is the towers that the call to prayer comes from, like where they have the speakers that send out the call to prayer. So if it's got one minaret, then it's a locally built mosque by the local people. If it's got two, then it's by, you know, like maybe the Sultan's mother or, you know, someone important. But if it's got four minarets, then it's the Sultan that's built it. This one here, this Sultan Ahmed, he decided to put 6 minarets on his. Not that that has any meaning at all, but he just wanted his to be special so that more people would come here for prayer. But he actually unfortunately died at the age of 27 before this mosque was actually completed. Only months before this mosque was completed. So he never actually got to see his dream.
Yeah.
The old city of Istanbul is like an outdoor museum with lots of incredible ancient monuments, all built during the reign of different ancient empires, from the Greeks to the Romans to the Ottomans. One of the oldest and most famous buildings in Istanbul is the Hagia Sophia, built in the 6th century AD as a Christian basilica. For over 1,000 years, it was the patriarchal cathedral of Constantinople, until the Ottomans conquered Istanbul in the 15th century, and they then converted the cathedral into a mosque. And in 1435, they had to make a few changes, obviously to make it suitable as a mosque. They needed to put a prayer balcony for the Sultan to do his prayers from. They needed to put the marker showing to Mecca. Of course, the building is sort of facing the wrong way to Mecca, so the marker had to be turned a little bit just to make sure that everyone was facing the right way for their prayers. But interestingly, even, you know, like some of the architecture is still original from being a church, but there's just a few additions like some Quran inscriptions and things like that. There was a painting of Jesus in the top dome when it was a church.
Looking down, right above us here.
But that's been changed to scripture from the Quran. You can see the resemblance of a church and how it's been slightly changed to resemble a mosque.
Hagia Sophia, Hagia is holy and Sophia is wisdom, so holy wisdom is basic in Greek, the name of this. So under the prayer mat, this is the original floor. Look at the detail in the old marble and everything they used on the floor here.
The Hagia Sophia is symbolic of the different cultures that once ruled the city. Today, you can still see inside some of the original Christian mosaics done when it was first built over 1,500 years ago. Coming up to Topkapi Palace. Yeah, apparently it's not like a fancy palace like other European palaces you might be used to seeing, but a more modest palace, but the sultans used to live here.
Built in 1450, same time the Sultan, he built the Hagia Sophia, turned that into a mosque, so now he wanted a palace right near that. We just come through the Sultan Gate. It's a lovely walk up behind us all the way up this walkway all the way up to the front gate into the palace. Looking forward to seeing in there.
The walk through the palace gardens was so beautiful, with the lush greenery and the tall majestic trees creating a tranquil oasis for us from the hot Turkish summer. Topkapi Palace served as the primary residence of the Ottoman sultans from the 15th to the 19th century. It's renowned for its stunning architecture and beautiful gardens. Wow, this is pretty amazing. So this is the government offices behind me. Over there is the harem, or the residential area, the treasury, and also the kitchen. Back in the day they used to serve 5,000 meals. It's one massive kitchen, I can tell you that right now. But apparently there's a room in here that's full of clocks that's been gifted to the Sultan from all different countries. So that's a little bit of a centerpiece here in because this is obviously a museum today, it's not a working palace. How fancy is it? And this place was actually used until 1923. We make our way inside the palace treasury, which houses an impressive collection of priceless artefacts, which gives us a glimpse into the rich history and culture of the Ottoman Empire. Apparently there's a bit of a sword exhibition here. Most of them are actually swords that were used in battle. There's a couple of large ones that are just for decoration, but yeah, apparently they've still got blood on them.
We're now in the fourth courtyard. So we've gone from the third into the fourth. Third courtyard we've got a bit more look at because that's where the treasury is. So this is where the Sultan used to walk around and relax in his private time on the fourth courtyard. And it's got all the views of the Marmara Sea and also the Bosphorus Strait.
The palace is situated on a headland, offering us breathtaking views of the Bosphorus Strait and the city of Istanbul.
That's the Asian side over there. The bridge, Golden Horns, and then we've got the European side just there. Well, now we're doing a cruise down the Bosphorus River, a sunset cruise. This is the boat we're going on. So looking forward to that. Going to see both sides of Istanbul from the Bosphorus River. That was a hunting lodge by the Sultans. They used to go hunting in all the hills here in the forest before the Asian side of Istanbul, before the houses came over it. Big hunting grounds. And they used to come back here at this house, that lodge, and rest there.
Being out on this boat, you get a real sense just how big Istanbul is, with a population now over 16 million people. It's a massive culturally diverse city, and it can feel a little bit overwhelming if it's your first time here. Not because it's intense, but there is just so much to see and do. Just where do we begin? We have really enjoyed today's historical walking tour, and to finish it off with such a stunning sunset on the Bosphorus is truly special.
Very nice way to finish off, yeah.
highly recommend. If you ever come this way, you've got to do a sunset cruise down the Bosphorus.
Yeah, absolutely. You see some amazing architecture. They reckon that most of the houses along the front of the strait here sell for between 50 to 100 million US dollars. So
A little bit out of our price range.
yeah, that's right. But some of them are just spectacular. A lot of them are 4 or 5 stories. Yeah, pretty amazing.
And you see people swimming in the Bosphorus River. It's pretty clean. It's all salt water and goes into the runs into the Black Sea. But
Yeah, it's just a really nice way to just finish off.
yeah.
Over the next couple of days, we're going to adventure out and explore the rest of Istanbul on our own. First stop, the Golden Horn and Galata Tower.
So behind me here is Galata Bridge. Galata Bridge was built in the early 1800s and it's now the 5th replacement of the bridges that have been built over from this side of Istanbul Fethi over to the other side here where you can see Galata Tower up the top. So that's where we're going to head now. But Galata Bridge is quite a famous bridge here. A lot of restaurants underneath. So this is the Golden Horn that connects one side of Istanbul to the other.
Galata Olympus, the number 1. If you want to rate, we are the best. My name is Murat. Understand?
Endless choice of restaurants along here under the Galata Bridge. And this is Olympus 1 Galata. Well, this is fishing Turkish style straight here in Istanbul off the bridge. They're catching what we'd call white bait, or a lot smaller. Not probably the biggest fish I've ever seen. But a lot of these we'd use as bait back in Australia. But anyway, they fry them up, white bait, apparently really tasty. And it's fishing here off the main bridge here in Istanbul.
Cherries, my favourite. So sometimes when you're on your way through these little back alleys, and I've been seeing these amazing cherries everywhere we've been driving, and I haven't been able to stop and get any. And then sometimes when you're walking, instead of walking the direct route, if you walk through the back alleys where there's no tourists, you can find more local markets. And look at these beautiful cherries. They're so juicy. They're the perfect ripeness. They're really good.
So here's Galata Tower. It was originally built in 1204, but during the Crusades, it was destroyed and all the Galata walls were all destroyed, and it was rebuilt again in 1348. It's the one of the oldest watchtowers in the world, and it's still standing here today. Just enough room for a person and a car. It's a tight, squeezy fit going down these back alleys. Watch your toes. You got the trams all through Istanbul, and they're easy to get on. You just get an Istanbul card, and they're at every tram station.
station for many years was the ending point of the Orient Express, the famous Orient Express, which is from Paris all the way to Istanbul. And so many people in the 1800s, early 1900s used to come on this train. And today, of course, you can still catch the Orient Express train. It's very expensive, so we won't be doing it for you this time. But you can still see some of the beautiful old architecture here, particularly here at the restaurant, which is functioning and open every day, that you can come and have a meal. Yeah, there's a little museum, a little bit of history about the station, but yeah, anyone that's heard of the Orient Express, this is the train station in Istanbul where it finishes its journey.